Today, I will show you how to create high converting webinars without sounding salesy. I created this training because a lot of my clients struggle to find advice out there that resonates with who they are. They just feel like the traditional standard advice that you get out there is just too salesy and transactional, and it makes them cringe. And the truth is that it should make you cringe. So, in this training, you will learn why being salesy actually kills your trust and what you should do instead. I will teach you the psychology of creating high converting webinars without being salesy, and how to effectively organize your content and get butts in seats to your webinar. It's a full training on webinar production, and stay towards the end because I will show you how to get access to my AI prompt book to get this done in 60 minutes or less. Like, this is something that used to take me a few days to complete. Now it can be done very quickly using AI with the right tools. So let's get started. First, I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm Hugo Sanchez and I live in Miami Beach, Florida. I've been living here for several years, just a few blocks away from where this photo was taken. And I've been in professional services since I'm like 12 years old. My dad had a management consulting firm and he wanted to teach me the value of work. So I started working with him and I did that for like 9 years. But then I went into marketing, and in marketing, I focused on the niche that I knew the best, having worked with my dad for many years. That is the professional service industry. And like anybody new to marketing at this time, I was following the standard advice, the ad campaigns, the urgency, the scarcity, like the fake urgency and fake scarcity, and creating these systems that sort of manipulate an audience into taking action. And something just didn't feel right about that. It just didn't feel authentic. In 2021, I went to the mountains of East Tennessee to a place called Narrow Ridge Earth Literacy Center. They have amazing programs. One of them is called a Vision Fest. So in the Vision Fest, you stay at this eco lodge. There's no service or communication with the outside world. And they prepare you to go to this mountain, the one on the left, and spend 4 days fasting by yourself with nothing but water and a plastic tarp and a journal. I did this because I wanted to find my north guiding star. I wanted to find what is my compass, what guides me through life. While I didn't have a vivid vision, I came out of the mountain with a very clear sense that what is most important for me in my life is relationships. This is when I've been the happiest, when I've been in relationships with a community, with my family, in romantic relationships, but also at work. Over the years, this realization materialized into what Mundus Media is today. I coined the term relationship based marketing. So at Mundus, we do marketing for professional services with a focus on relationships. And I mean, is it crazy? I mean, the best way to grow a professional service firm is through relationships, referrals, and reputation. It has always been. So that is the core belief at relationship-based marketing. The same path took me into opening a podcast called The Business of Trust, where I interview people who have created very successful professional service firms. And I ask them the same question. How did you get your best client? How did you get your first client? The answer is always the same: through relationships or referrals. So, if your business thrives on relationships and referrals, why are you commoditizing your brand with cheap funnels that just erode your trust? If you're in the business of professional services, you are in the business of trust. And something is happening right now with trust. I don't know if you've noticed, but across the board, people are losing trust, not just in business, but in government, in mainstream media, and even in research, the thing that we know brings us closer to the truth. And the AI revolution is commoditizing knowledge. So for us trusted advisors who are in the business of trust, and we get clients because they trust us, this means that building relationships that are rooted in deep trust is our main marketing goal. So this is everything that we cover today in this training or in any future content that you consume from me is going to be rooted under the principles of relationship first marketing. The path of relationship based marketing has allowed me to connect with wonderful humans that are not just my clients, but people that I consider friends because we have developed a solid relationship. Like Akim Nowak on the right. Akim is a very successful executive coach, and we've worked together for like over 5 years. He's actually episode number one of the Business of Trust podcast. On the left, you have Rosemary Ravenel, a renowned public speaking coach, probably the best person that you can hire for a bilingual C suite executive. That's Rosemary. And we work together, and she's just an amazing human. People like Pier Paolo, Andrew, Jackie, and Marcia, these are all clients who have become friends. And this is the joy of having a relationship based business, is that the people that you get to work with is very enjoyable. And this connection through values is what makes them refer you. The good news is that this approach works. The bad news is that it doesn't work for everybody. It only works for you if you're a trusted advisor, if people need to trust you in order to buy your services. So it might not work for you if you're selling a product, if you're selling a cheap online digital service, or if you're in the business of volume in general. It is for you if you are a relationship driven person, meaning that you enjoy the human aspect of your business and relating to your clients. If you just want to automate everything and put everything in autopilot as much as you can, then this might not be the approach for you. There is a level of that can't be automated in the human relationship building. Also, this is for you if you cringe at salesy marketing tactics. Like the whole salesy marketing just like it's not for you. You know it's not for you. But not more than cringe, you also understand that it hurts your brand, that it makes you come across as junior, soliciting, or just not authentic. So if all of this apply, stick around because I'll show you how to use webinars in a way that aligns with these values. This is the model we'll implement today, and it's mapped out right now from a customer journey perspective. So in essence, people will find out about the webinar through an awareness channel, meaning an ad campaign, an email campaign, or because you just called them and did a direct outreach to them. You will send all of these people to a page to sign up. This is the landing page. Those who sign up are taken to a thank you page where you warm them up a little bit. And then you want to ensure attendance. So you send them a few emails reminding them of the webinar. Then in the webinar is where you start the relationship or level up the relationship. And those who are more qualified from this webinar, you schedule opportunity calls to discuss working together. I'm going to show you how to do all of this using AI. Let's get started. The most important part of developing a successful webinar is what happens under the hood. It's like once we go, is to go into the psychology of what makes a webinar convert, and not just putting your content in an eloquent way or even in a helpful or educational way. This is not a class for academia. This is not a training. Webinars and high converting webinars are very specific about what they do. So let me walk you through how to do that. And by the way, this is the most important part of this training and is what I see a lot of people just bypass and get wrong. I'm going to borrow this from Stephen Covey. Start with the end and always ask the question, what is the main goal of this webinar? Start with that. And not just say it or think it, but write it. I invite you to adopt relationship-oriented goals for your webinar. So note that the people who are coming to the webinar, they are paying with their time and their attention. This is an opportunity not to pitch to them, but to level up the relationship, to bring this either a stranger or someone that you have known for a while, but they've gone cold, to warm them up through the content that you have promised to deliver. So goals can be like introduce myself and my philosophy to people who've never heard of me, or to deepen trust with an existing audience, or to re-engage a cold relationship. Throughout this training, I will also show you my thought process, for example, in creating this particular webinar, so you can see the technique applied in real time. So, for example, my goal for this training is to connect with coaches and consultants who cringe at the marketing bro and all the salesy tactics these marketing bros tell them to do. And they're like, I will never do that because like this just is very junior. This is not sophisticated enough for me. This just makes me cringe. Is that really the only way? And I'm here to tell you, No, it is not the only way. As a matter of fact, I believe that these salesy manipulative techniques work against you if you're in the professional service industry. And that if you're a trusted advisor, your goal now more than ever is in building relationships. And I want to connect with these coaches and consultants who to subscribe to this line of thinking because I have an alternative, and this is the alternative. So that's my goal for this training. A great way to answer this question is to also put it on the from the prospect perspective. Like, what do I want my prospects, that is like the people in the webinar, to say, think, or do at the end of this webinar? And in my case, for example, what I want you to say, think, or do at the end of this training is I want you to start a relationship with me. I want you to become an avid reader of my content, of my newsletter, and to come to my upcoming events. I also, as a matter of, in terms of action, I want you to send me an email at the end of this webinar requesting my content, and I will show you how I structure my webinar in order to achieve that goal. The second step is to name your webinar. This is where you pick your topic and where you pick your name. Is the single most important line of copywriting that you will do throughout this entire training. It merits its own step because of that. So here's a few rules that I see people get wrong. The first thing is I want you to think of the title or the type of webinar that you pick as a fishing bait. If you change the bait, you change the type of fish that you will attract. The same thing goes for webinars. You want to make sure that the name that you're selecting actually attracts the right person. The second thing that you want to consider is that this is something that you're offering, something that people want, not what they need. You know what people need, and it's pretty easy to create a training around that, but that's not what people want. I want you to go deeper into, this is the classic example of like, people don't want a drill pit, they want a hole in the wall. In the same note, people don't want coaching. They don't want consulting. They want to have a better business. They want to have a life they love. They want to get more clients. You want your webinar to focus on the transformation, that the transformation that you're promising, it's clear. You want your title to clearly state the desired outcome that people will get out of this webinar. You get points if you address a pain point or a common objection that people will have to achieving that transformation into your title. Let me just bring this whole concept home with a few examples. On the left, you have bad names. And on the right, you have the good version, the fixed version of those names. The first one is Boundaries, the game changer for mental health. While that's a good title, it's also not specific enough. This is what I was talking about, the fishing bait. This title could attract any kind of people. Anybody needs boundaries, like for mental health, like whether you are in med school or you are a professional or you're in a relationship with someone who just takes too much of your time. We all need those boundaries. But in this case, with this client, we wanted to connect with people who are very busy at work, and that was like affecting their well-being. So we changed the title to How to Set Boundaries at Work Without Jeopardizing Your Career. So we also included a common objection that people get there, the belief that if I set boundaries, then I won't be able to grow in my career. So that is the promise of this webinar. It's clearly stated on this name on the right. The second example, data governance best practices for offboarding. And again, this is specific, but it's something that people need. Nobody wants data governance. Nobody cares about it. So what people want is to stop their data from living with employees. So that's a much better name because that is what people want. They want to prevent data from data leaking. On the left, the third one is how to tell your story with confidence and conviction. And while it is also, again, clear what you're going to learn in this training, it doesn't really state the transformation. Why do you want to tell your story? Why is focused on the activity, not on the outcome? So the transformation, the desired outcome is not clearly stated. In this case, we wanted to help people tell their stories with confidence and conviction to land their dream career at job interviews. So we named the webinar Stories That Sell, How to Land Your Dream Career Using Storytelling. Now, I promise you that we will learn how to do this using AI. I've embedded all of the knowledge in this webinar into 19 prompts. Those 19 prompts are all contained in this ebook, the Webinar AI Prompt Book, and here you will see all the knowledge that I've already shared with you in 19 prompts to help you create all the copy and all the content for your webinar. Of course, there are some variables that you need to adapt for your own case to tell the language model what this is about for your specific case, but all the knowledge of the webinar is already embedded inside the prompts. So in this case, on the left here, we have a prompt to help you come up with the perfect title for your webinar. The variables that we need to insert is what is the goal of the webinar, who is our ideal client avatar, who the webinar is for, what is the transformation that we promise, and what is the biggest pain point we're helping them solve. And then there are some formulas to create great webinar titles. So here's an example of the same prompt. In this case, is a fictional scenario aimed at connecting with decision makers in learning and development directors in middle market companies in Florida to show them the latest on AI for curriculum development in middle management. Once we change those variables, we just hit enter, and these are some of the high converting, emotionally charged webinar titles for L&D directors. I wanted to show you this example to share how you can actually use this to expedite the process, but don't let it take over your creative agency. So this is prompt number 2 out of the 19 that are in the Webinar AI prompt book, and stay towards the end of the webinar because I will show you how to get access to this book. Now that we have picked the name for our webinar, it's time to create the content of the webinar. A common mistake that I see here is that subject matter experts know so much about a topic that when they create the webinar, they focus a lot in the how. They focus in solving the problem. But high converting webinars are not meant to solve a problem. They are meant to shift, to disrupt the way your audience sees the problem. If you make your audience go, oh my God, this makes so much sense. I've been looking at this all wrong this entire time, then you have done your job right. If you get one thing out of this training, it to be that you need to disrupt, not teach, then let that be the most important lesson today. The way to do this is to draw a T. I call this exercise the magic T. So you draw a T, on the top of the T, you put what you wrote in step number 1. What do I want my prospect to say, think, or do? That is the action that we want them to take. Our whole webinar is meant to pave the path for them to take that action. On the left of the T, we write the beliefs. What do they need to believe in order to take that action? More importantly, what needs to be disrupted? What needs to happen for them to say yes to the next step? And what myths get in the way? What needs to be unlearned? This is where you want to focus your training. Answer those questions. I can't answer these questions for you because I'm not an expert on whatever topic you want to speak about. But my call to action to you here is don't make your training about the how. Don't make it about the solution. Make it about shifting the way they have seen this so they can open their minds to different possibilities and know that there's a different way to solving this. People are very smart and there is a lot of information out there, and they probably already know a lot about the how. What they need to know is they need to know that there's an alternative. They've probably tried solutions already. So this is why disrupting makes it so memorable. Now, on the right, you write the objections. What are the fears, the doubts, the limiting beliefs that people have, the stories that they're telling themselves that will prevent them from taking the desired action? So, as an example, for this training, for example, what I want you to do is to reach out via email. And if I do my job right in this webinar, the beliefs that I need to disrupt are, number 1, if your business thrives through relationships and referrals, why are you spending so much time with transactional funnels? Another one is, the goal of marketing for professional services is to build trusted relationships. And finally, that salesy and transactional tactics just kill your marketing, kill your brand, and make you come across as junior and soliciting. Now, objections that you may have around this is that there's a catch. This person might be trying to sell me something, or it's not safe. I just met this person on the internet. You might have privacy concerns. So this actually become our teaching points in the next step. So we pick 3 to 4 of the items in this magic tea. The ones that we consider contain the most impactful content, and then we rewrite them as headlines. We only need to pick 3 or 4. More than that will make your webinar take too long. We need to write them as subheadings because they will support the main title that we pick in step number 2. And these subheadings are meant to create tension by either evoking curiosity in the reader, by promising some value, or to promise to overcome an obstacle. This is the way we frame our teaching points. A well written teaching points will support the main title of the webinar by adding more tension and incentivize people to sign up in the landing page. And again, I have embedded all of the knowledge in this webinar into the AI prompt book. Stay towards the end for me to show you how to access it. Now that we have the concept of our webinar, we know what we want people to do, we know the name of the webinar, and we know what we want to teach. It's time to prepare the content of the webinar. An effective webinar will take people through what I call a chain of belief. People come to you to the webinar because they have a problem, and you have connected to that pain point in the title of your webinar. But in the webinar, you need to make sure that people know that you understand their specific situation. Then you provide an alternative way to looking at this problem and to solve this problem. Then you need to provide the evidence that this will work for them, and that you're a trustworthy person, or that your expertise is very valid. That's why you show testimonials, case studies, and finally that the timing is right. So if all of these triggers get activated, then the offer that you make in your call to action, that is the next best step for them. The chain of belief is embedded into this webinar structure to help you do just that. So a good webinar will have 3 clear sequences. It will have an opening sequence with the goal of creating tension in the attendance, so people want to stick towards the end. Then you have the training. That's where you deliver on the teaching points and create the disruption. And then you have the closing, which is meant to say what to do next. In the opening sequence, you always want to start with the opportunity, why they should stick around. You put your white coat by sharing your credentials, your authority, and it's always good to tell a story at the beginning that will emotionally relate to your audience. It's always important to qualify who is this for or who is this not for. This will help activate that chain of belief. So by the time you enter the training points is when people are ready to take in the disruption that you want to provide. I've actually created another guide called the High Converting Webinar Flow and Structure. In this ebook, I've go through each one of these steps for each one of these sequences, and for each one of them, I share a little bit, a little script that you can use as a reference, and some tips and more data on how to actually structure this. I go through what the main objections that you may want to overcome and what you can use in order to overcome that objection. This is a simple but mighty guide. Stick towards the end, and I will show you how to get both these ebooks free of charge. One of the reasons why I want to share both of these ebooks with you is because they work pretty good together. In prompt number 4 of the Webinar AI prompt book, I indicate that you can upload the red ebook, the Flow and Structure ebook, into the chat box and offer it as context. So it has a lot more information from the ebook to guide you into creating the content. And that's why I like to use these PDFs together with an AI chat box. Another tool that I really like to use is called Gamma. Gamma is a AI tool that helps you create design presentations, documents, and websites. Now, something that is pretty cool about Gamma is that you can paste your script if you have one, and it will create the presentation for you, or you can generate it from your bullet points if you only have bullet points that of what you want to cover. So you can also import a file that you already have in place. So this is what I did. I had already my design because I knew exactly what I wanted to put in each slide, and then I uploaded it to Gamma, and Gamma made the design a lot better. Now, the best way to make your webinar not sound salesy is to separate the sales part of the webinar from the webinar itself. I encourage you to use your webinar as a pure value tool, really help your audience and create a lot of reciprocity. Then look at who stays at the end of the webinar, take note of that, and use this information to prioritize who you want to connect with. The best way to request for a connection, by a connection I mean a 30-minute opportunity call, is to send a direct outreach. So either via email or by a text message if you have the phone number of the person and if it's appropriate. What I encourage you to do is to not give a hint of self, or even like indirect ways of saying it, such as I want to see what your priorities are for this quarter and see if I could help you. This typically don't work because people hate when somebody's trying to sell them something. It puts you in different sides of the aisle. What you want to do is to come together. I find it that it's a lot more helpful to ask for help, saying like, I have a new offer and I would love to pick your brain to see what you think. I'm trying to get some feedback who people who are actually going to use it, or there's a genuine interest to connect. It could be around running a informational interview, or it could just be to discuss more about what they share in the training. So if you make your training live, I encourage you to drop in some open-ended questions to hear from the crowd, those who are more eager to participate and who have shared some good stuff. You can use that in your outreach and say, I want to talk more about what you said about this particular topic. Can I pick your brain for 30 minutes? This approach has worked pretty good for me. The other thing that I suggest that you do is to follow up to 2 times. People are busy and sometimes your email may land in spam box. Just send a one-liner. Hey, I want to make sure that you got my email. I totally understand if the timing is not right. So this is the best way that I found to request these calls. You have built reciprocity. You have already created a relationship with them. And then you take this to the next level. So far, we already have the content of the webinar, and now it's time to get butts in seats. We have covered the last portion of the webinar, which is using the webinar to build relationships, to disrupt, and then take those connections into opportunity calls. In order to get people to register to the webinar and to show up, we need to do the portion that on the left that is highlighted in green. Let's start with the landing page. So the landing page is the page where people sign up to your webinar. And typically it would have the following sections. You have the hero section, which is the top section, the main part that everybody will look at. Then you will have a qualifying section, this is for you if, an optional social proof section with some testimonials or proof of results, and then finally at the bottom of the page, a call to action. So here's an example of what the hero section would look like. You would have the title of the webinar, the name that we gave on step 2, which I said is the most important piece of copywriting. You want to make sure that that's very visible. The largest text is the name of the webinar, and then you have your teaching points. I like using check marks because they indicate a sense of completion, a sense that something is going to be accomplished, and the call to action, which is the button that says reserve your spot now or to register now, alongside with a graphic that will foreshadow a little bit of what we're going to cover in the webinar. These have worked very good for me. Now, the next section below the hero section is the qualifying section. So this is just a short statement of this is for you. And again, some bullet points where people get to read this and say like, oh yeah, yes, I'm that person, I'm that person, I'm that person, and allow them to self-identify and motivate them to sign up. And finally, in the call to action at the bottom is once people scroll at the bottom of the page, you just want to put the form. And I get asked a lot, like, what should we put in this form? Typically, I put the name and the email. That's the bare minimum. But you can also add more qualifying questions. You can ask the occupation. You can ask a few more fields, like even the phone number. Just note that the more fields you put, the less registrations you're going to get. But those who register will be a little bit more qualified. Now we have the thank you page. The thank you page is the page where you redirect people who have successfully registered. This page is overlooked, but it's very important. It's the only page in your entire flow where 100% of the people who register will actually look. Because, I mean, from this point on, the emails that you send, you're going to get like between 40 and 60% open rates. And actually only 30 to 50% of the people who register will show up to the webinar. And this is the only moment where you will get that 100% of registrants to look at. On the top, you want to put a success message, letting them know that they are successfully registered, then an add to calendar link so they can put it into their calendar, a welcome video to warm them up, and an invitation to connect somewhere else, like LinkedIn or through a Facebook group. And this is important because you want to create multiple touch points with people. And this is an example of a thank you page. You can see the success message, grade you're in. You see the add to calendar link up there, also again at the bottom. And then you have a welcome video. I like to use a software called Add Event. It's just pretty easy to use. But also sometimes I grab all the list of attendees and I send them a calendar invite through Google Calendar, so it shows up in their calendar in case they didn't add it to their calendar themselves. And again, to create the copy of the landing page and the thank you page, I have prompts for that in the AI prompt book. Most of your communication on a high converting webinar will happen through email. You want to email people who register to the webinar to remind them that the webinar is happening. On the other note, people who haven't registered to the webinar but are in your mailing list, you also want to send them a series of emails. Also, once your webinar is done, you want to send a post-webinar email to those who registered. You want to send a with the recording and a thank you note. And then you can start your one-on-one outreach. Now, I know this is a lot of emails and there's a lot of copywriting involved in this. All the logic of these emails are in the Webinar AI prompt book. There's instructions in the prompts on how to write these emails and what type of subject lines to use. All the knowledge is already embedded into the prompts here, and it will make everything a lot easier for you. The other way that you have to bring people to sign up to your webinar outside of your email list is through social media. I always like to use your personal social media and an ad campaign to attract people who don't follow you. As ad creative here, I typically have an event banner. I like to use this format of ad that is called teach and pitch format, where you deliver a piece of knowledge and then you tell them to learn more at the webinar. I like to have a carousel where you're tackling the myth around and common misconceptions around the particular transformation that you're promising. I like to have an infographic with reasons why, like the one you here see on the bottom right with benefits of movement meditation. There's like all the reasons why you should practice a movement meditation. Or sometimes just a personal photo can generate good results. Now, to create the copy for all of these ads, again, there's a prompt in the AI prompt book. And finally, there's other sources of traffic. Once you create your webinar, your whole goal at this point is to get people to register, and the best way to do it is just to spread the word as much as possible. I shared emails as an option. I shared personal social media and paid advertisement on social media, but also probably the best way to get people to sign up is direct outreach, sending direct messages to people in your network, people that like you, people that have been trying to work with you, and invite them to the webinar. This is an example on the right of a client who sent like this very warm email to 50 people that he really liked, that they know each other, and we got a lot of attendance from those 50. These are the warmest folks in your list, so make sure to take the time to identify them and send them a personal email. And also, you want to put an announcement bar in your website, letting people know, those who are regular visitors in your website, to know that there's a webinar happening. Okay, so that pretty much covers it today. We cover why Salesy kills trust and what to do instead. We cover the psychology of creating high converting webinars. We cover how to organize your content in a webinar and how to fill your webinar with the right people. What I haven't fully covered is I haven't told you how to get my 2 ebooks with the AI prompt book and the flow document. Now, the way to get access to these 2 ebooks is just send me an email to hugo@mundesmedia.com, say hi, and include your website. And I will immediately send you the AI prompt book and the high converting webinar flow and structure. If you don't have a website, you can also put your LinkedIn page or any other social media where I can note that you are a real person. I just don't want this to go out in the internet to chat box and to robots. I want this to go to the right individuals who can actually use it. Like I shared at the beginning of this webinar, my goal for this webinar is to connect with coaches and consultants who just cringe at the traditional advice and they want an alternative. I hope that this webinar offered that alternative for you and you learned something today, and that you will enjoy the content I will put out there for you in the next few days. Bye for now.